So, today's lesson, we're going to start with basic fact of circles. And the basic fact of circles is this. If I have any angle, which we could call a central angle,
okay.
So let's go ahead and name that right there. This guy is called the central angle. If I have any angle whose vertex is the center of the circle,
Yes.
and I have another angle
Mm-hmm.
whose vertex is on the circle,
Yes.
but who shares whatever these are called, the endpoints of the angle. Who
Okay.
knows? The angle that lies on the circle is exactly half of the central angle. And I've drawn two examples, one in blue, one in black, to illustrate that it actually doesn't matter where this vertex is.
Okay.
So let's look at an example, or the most common example. And of course I have to read, I'm going to draw another circle. If we envision a diameter of the circle as being one of these central angles that just so happens to be 180 degrees, then any triangle that we form using the endpoints of the diameter and another point on the circle will be a right triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it's important that this is a diameter. And once you got that, then anything you can draw is going to be a right triangle.
Okay.
Like so. Okay, and that's just a special case, the most common case of this other fact where the angle that lies on the circle is half of the central angle.
Okay.
So we got 90 degrees, half of 180 degrees. Okay, that brings us to the problem at hand, which I'm going to zoom in. The problem we're asked, we're given a whole bunch of choices, and I'm not going to copy down the exact problem, but I am going to label the angles the same way. I'm going to scratch that out. Label the angles the same way they're labeled in the problem. And we're given the choice of selecting that S and R are right angles. Of course, we discussed that. They are, in fact, right angles.
Yes.
Beyond that, we're also given the option to select angle 2 is equal to angle 1,
Mm-hmm.
and angle 4 is equal to angle 3. So we're asking, yes or no, are those things true? First things first, let's see why angle 3 and angle 4 are actually definitely not always equal.
Okay.
Well, if we look at
Because
this triangle, you say it.
These two angles may vary.
Well, they can always vary. But let's forget about the whole complicatedness of the picture.
The whole complicatedness.
Look at this triangle.
This one?
The one, this one here.
The one.
There. This point,
This
point, and this
this
point.
point.
I guess we could give them names, but we're not going to. If angle 3 equals angle 4, that's exactly saying that the triangle I keep tracing is isosceles. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. You know what? I'm going to give these things names. Let's call this A, let's call this X, and let's call this B. Is it given a name in your picture? Oh, actually they are. They're called P and Q.
And
okay.
blank.
Well, whatever. So triangle AXB is isosceles if and only if angle 3 is the same as angle 4. Hopefully, it's obvious that triangle AXB is not isosceles, which means angle 3 is not congruent to angle 4 in general. Okay, that's easy, hopefully. Now, on to the question of angle 2 versus angle 1.
These two, which is answer choice number A.
Okay, so
Letter A.
angle 2 and angle 1, are they the same? Well, we know that this angle here is 90, and let's call this angle the two angles that are formed at vertex X. Let's call them I don't know, what's a good letter for angle? M. It's not a good letter for angle. But the point is, whatever whatever M is, it's the same in both spots. Do you know the name for these angles? Do you know what they're called?
Vertical angles?
Vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. So if we've got 90 and M, then let me zoom back out. I'm going to write it painfully obviously, but you probably already see it yourself. The measure of angle 2 plus 90 degrees plus M equals 180.
Yeah.
Okay? And the same is true for the measure of angle 1. Measure of angle 1 plus 90 degrees plus M equals 180. In fact, they're both equal to 90 minus M. And I'm just pointing out one other little thing, that anytime you have a right triangle, the other two angles also add up to 90.
Yes.
And that's kind of obvious, but it's good to point it out. Okay? So in the end, what's true? Angle S is a right angle, angle R is a right angle, and angle 2 equals angle 1. Alright? Okay.
So both A and Z.
That's what it turns out in our multiple choice. Okay. So end of
would be...
Well, we don't have the multiple choices on the video, but D is the answer. Okay. End of
Look
video.
at the question.
Yeah.
You see the answer.
Maybe we should, well, okay, that's enough.